rebounding. Got to get it in. Does to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
What's up, everyone? This is Lashard Binkley. I am the co-host of Rocket Fuel Podcast. Of course, you can always find my written work over at SB Nation or the Dream Shake. I actually dropped an article earlier today, and that's kind of what the subject of this video will be about for the next episode of Rocket Fuel Rocket Report. And that is Fred VanVleet, who is one of the leading candidates for the Rockets to possibly bring in. They are hoping to get a meeting with him today once free agency starts at 5 o'clock. And I had a chance to sit down and talk with Vivek Jacob of Raptors.com, who followed Fred VanVleet his entire career as while he was playing with the Raptors. And he had a lot of great insight to bring to the table. And I definitely want to go over some of that with y'all today before free agency hit. And the possibility of Fred VanVleet coming to the Rockets on a possible 2-year deal. So I mentioned earlier, I talked to Vivek Jacob, and I asked him several questions about Fred VanVleet so I can get a better understanding of his overall game, since I don't watch him every game. And there are people that actually watch him game in and game out and will have a better understanding just from people just looking at box scores. So my first question to Vivek was, what exactly does Fred VanVleet, what would he bring to a young team like the Rockets looking for leadership and a mentor for Amon Thompson? So this was his response, quote, VanVleet would bring a strong work ethic, consistency and good habits daily, and a great locker room voice. His competometer, I love that phrase, competometer is off the charts for a young team looking to learn how to play hard for 48 minutes, night in and night out. He is someone who can be a tone setter. Now, he's also old school, and so players not engaged at the level they should can frustrate him, but it can deliver those messages in the right way. And if players take it in the right spirit, then there's a lot to be gained. Basically saying he holds people accountable. Players around him, he holds himself accountable. Some of the Rockets desperately needed, some of the Rockets haven't had in a long time. And you need a player that other players are going to respect, because you need a player that's going to be a coach on the court. Because a lot of times players, especially young players, aren't necessarily going to listen to the coach all the time. They're going to listen to other players. And if you have a player like Fred VanVleet, that's exactly what you need. You need somebody that can be a leader, not only on the court, but in the locker room. I also asked Vivek about the fact that VanVleet's shooting percentage, he had his worst shooting percentage last year overall and from three-point range. And I asked him, was that more of an anomaly, or is that something that possibly can become a trend? So, quote, first thing I would say with VanVleet, or any high-volume three-point shooter for that matter, is that he shouldn't be judged on his field goal percentage alone, as pretty much half his shots are three-point attempts. Effective field goal percentage would be a better indicator, which is definitely true, because we know here, being in Houston, watching James Harden all these years shooting, half his shots or more than half his shots from three-point range, so, overall field goal percentage is never going to be 50%, because we all know three-point shots are a lot harder to shoot. So that's definitely a good point to bring up about his overall shooting. He also went on to say, quote, a major weakness, however, in his shooting percentage is he doesn't finish well around the basket. He has never been above the 32nd percentile for guards in that area, and I don't anticipate that changing due to both his height and shot selection. So that's something to keep in mind when he's coming in, that, hey, his three-point percentage may get better next year, as, he's with a different team and maybe a different system, something he maybe needed to be able to get his shot back. But he's not necessarily a great finisher around the basket, so that's not something you should really be expecting if Fred VanVleet was come to the Rockets. Another question I asked him was, what were some of the issues that you think management and people who cover the team like yourself had with VanVleet's overall game? So we kind of combined questions 3 and 4, because I also asked him about VanVleet as a floor leader, or is he more of a combo guard? So this was from Vivek, quote, 3 and 4. Questions 3 and 4. In terms of issues with his game beyond what I outlined above, he isn't a natural point guard in my eyes. He has certainly improved playmaking over years, but there are still reads he misses and ends up overshooting. Unquote. He went on to also mention that the addition of Jakob Proto last year was a huge addition, because it made it a lot easier for him on pick and rolls, made his decision making a lot easier, and that's something that helped him overall. And that's something to keep in mind as he maybe, of course, playing with Alperen Şengün. He also mentioned that he needs someone, or he needs other players around him that can help him kind of mix in playmaking responsibilities. Basically, he needs somebody that can sometimes take over for those playmaking responsibilities because he's not a natural point guard. He needs someone like maybe a Kevin Porter Jr. or Amen Thompson that can also help out with the playmaking, because he's not Chris Paul. He's not going to be controlling the game the entire game. He's more of a guy that can do it sometimes, but he also likes to be off ball. So that's just something else to keep in mind. If VanVleet comes to the Rockets, that don't expect him to come out and give you 10 assists a game, because that's just not his game. He's more of a combo type of guard that can, at times, run the team. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. I asked him several more questions, but I just want to go over one more because, of course, you can always check out the article over at the Dream Shake. I asked him about how does he fit with Jalen Green and Şengün, and I want to give you a little bit of that. He said Şengün is a very unselfish player, and I think Fred could have himself quite a few catch-and-shoot opportunities playing off of Şengün. So that's something also to keep in mind, like I mentioned before, that VanVleet not necessarily going to need to always have the ball in his hand. He can play off of Şengün and let Şengün be that playmaker. And that would help. Another thing that would help him get his overall shot percentage up, because he's playing with somebody that's willing to give him the ball, and he doesn't always have to be the person bringing up the ball. And then sometimes maybe he's playing with Kevin Porter Jr., who can be that second playmaker, or Amen Thompson, or if Jalen Green can improve his playmaking. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Fred VanVleet has to be the main ball handler all the time. That's something that the Rockets will have to figure out as they go along. One more point that Vivek brought up was, quote, the Raptors ran some 1-4 pick and roll with Siakam handling the ball and VanVleet as a screener. So that could be an option for both Green and Şengün when they're up top with the ball. That's a good point as well. Of course, for some people that may not know what 1-4 is, that basically means that you have 4 people on perimeter and you have one person basically somewhere in the paint. And in this situation, it was Siakam. That's usually the guy that's at the high post or somewhere on the elbow or something like that. And that's something they could possibly do with the Rockets as well. So there's different areas that you can put VanVleet in that may help him overall. And that's something to keep in mind as we approach this 5 o'clock deadline. The Rockets are hoping for a meeting. They don't necessarily have one that I know of as right now, but they're hoping for a meeting with VanVleet. There's still a good chance they can bring him in, because Ime really wants a veteran point guard to bring to his team. And with a free agent class that's lacking in really good point guards, the Rockets are going to make VanVleet one of their highest priorities. So definitely keep us in mind as we will be dropping videos. If anything else happens today, tomorrow, or whatever day with free agency, we will definitely drop some more videos. We will definitely keep everybody updated on what's going on. So if you want to see, more great videos, more great guests, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button. That helps us overall. That helps the channel. We appreciate everybody that supports us. And make sure you check out the next episode of Rocket Fuel Podcast and also the Rocket Report.